Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. So Professor Damodaran has come out with an article saying that India market is most expensive. Now this is creating a lot of panic, right? And why? Because FIIs are withdrawing money. Indian market hasn't done well over the last 1.5 years. So this is creating a lot of problem because the market, if we check from the top, it has corrected by like 11-12%. So why is he saying that okay, Indian market is overvalued or Indian market is expensive? So I'll break it down on today's video by showing you all the data. On top of that, I'll tell you solutions also कि भाई वो सच में overvalued है कि नहीं है, and if you feel that okay it is overvalued, then what is it that you can do? So I'll discuss this in a very point-wise manner. So I'll discuss 7-8 key points. Okay. So let's study point 1, which shows the PE ratio of different countries. So for example, यहाँ पे PE ratio आप US के stock market का देखोगे तो it is around 26. Okay. India का is around 24. Similarly, बाकी की countries हैं जिनका different PE ratio. Now, what is the meaning of PE ratio? Well, it's very simple, right? This is the growth multiple which is being given to certain countries. For example, you might have seen that typically speaking, small cap companies are given higher PE multiple. Why? Because those are small, they can grow like faster. Okay. Similarly, large cap companies का typically कम होता है, right? Similarly, growth industries जैसे tech होता है तो उसमें PE ratio is higher. Now, what exactly does this PE mean? PE means price in context of its earning. So for example, if the PE ratio is 100, then it means that people are willing to pay a price of 100 in order to get an earning of 1. This is the meaning of PE ratio. In very simple words, the PE or like समझने वाली बात ये होती है कि for example, if PE is 20, right, for some industry, else if the PE of a particular industry is 50. Now, why is like the PE multiple of a certain industry like tech is 50? Because people are betting on growth. So PE multiple shows that right now in present, what investors are betting and how much premium valuation they are giving to different markets. Okay. So यहाँ से आप समझने वाला मुद्दा ये आता है कि see, if you take a look at US, so यहाँ पे भी तो PE 26 है, then why is it that he's saying that okay, Indian market is like 24? Is he anti-national? This, that? No. So he's not. Basically, he's giving a sensible viewpoint. So here you need to understand the point that this PE that we are speaking about here, this is the current PE. Okay. And what investors worry about is called as the forward PE. Okay. For example, the PE of India could very well have been 30. And it would have been no problem at all had the growth rate in India been high. But our growth rate is not that high right now. It was supposed to be like 8-9%. Here we are speaking about 5.5-6% growth rate, which is not really fascinating for investors. And therefore, again, I keep pointing to this data set here that FIIs have been selling the Indian market for the last 4 or 5 years now. Post-COVID, they have aggressively been selling the market. The broader context or understanding there is that, see, they are worried about the forward PE. कि भाई आगे चल के PE ratio क्या होगा? आगे चल के ऐसा तो नहीं कि from 24 it will fall to like 20, right? Had the situation been that okay, the Indian market will keep on commanding higher valuation, higher premiums, then PE can expand from 24 to 30. Now a natural question comes that okay, what will happen if the PE of a country shrinks? Now होगा क्या इसमें कि for example, if the PE of India shrinks from like 24 to let's say 20, right? Something like this, right? It goes France की तरह पे. Now UK is a very good example. So मैं आपको UK का दिखाता हूँ FTSE 100. So इसका आप इंडेक्स देखोगे तो आपको पता चलेगा that see in this phase, right, UK economy was growing like crazy, right from when 1985 to 2000, because US में tech कब आया, right? After 2000 tech, right, that was the drop of the .com bubble. 2000 में crash आया. Then you had companies like Google, Amazon, Netflix, all these companies came up. They drove that tech angle. The growth actually shifted from UK to US. But that was a developed country game. Okay. Now, since then, what has happened to the UK market? आप देख लो, right? In 2000 में अगर आपने जो invest करा होता, almost वैसा का वैसे ही पड़ा रहा है, right? Why? Because people stopped giving higher valuation or high PE multiples to the UK market. Okay. Now, what I'm trying to tell you in very simple words is that India right now is having a growth problem. So from that point of view, you can make two arguments. One argument is that you will show this chart again कि देखो यार India का PE is like 24, America का तो 26 है. So ऐसा क्या हो गया? It's not like that a big deal. So that point of view is also correct. But the second and the more problematic viewpoint is that, see, going forward, right, what the forward PE is going to be, that needs to be understood, which brings us to point number 2, that whether our forward PE is going to grow or shrink from this point. Okay. So in order to understand whether the Indian PE or Indian markets PE will grow from like 24 to maybe like 30, or it will shrink from 24 to 17, 18, What is it that you need to ask? Very basic logical question. You simply need to ask the question, why did India grow fast over the last X number of years? मैं उसमें कोई डेट डाल दूंगा कि 10 years. Then it becomes like a politics. So I'm refraining from that debate. But I'm just helping you understand that, okay, you yourself think that, okay, why did growth come in India? So I could figure out 3 specific reasons. Number 1 was IT. This was the reason why a lot of cities in India like Pune, Hyderabad, etc. got really strong. And it was due to IT revolution. Now, is the IT industry going up or down? I would argue that it's going down, unfortunately. Okay. Second was startup. Now, Indian government has pushed a lot of budget in startup. Startup had been growing, on the startup ecosystem in India is growing. So I would put that as a positive thing. Okay, so this is actually positive. Abhi shayad 10,000 crore ka hai. Please correct me in the comment box that whether it is like 10,000 crore, some allocation has been given for startups where special considerations will be done for them in this budget. So that section I'll put here as a snippet. You can read more about it and see that a lot of work will go into startups and this is needed. This is positive. Okay. Third was the LPG reform. Now LPG reform actually started in 1991, 1992 के आसपास, which opened up the Indian market. Now उसके repercussions अब हमें दिख रहे हैं, right? Repercussions in the sense it's both positive and negative. Positive in the sense is that it led to more domestic consumption, right? Domestic consumption. Now almost 60% of our GDP is accelerated or is earned through domestic consumption itself. Now this is a big thing, and all thanks to LPG reforms that today we are consuming like a lot, right? And that is moving our economy. So यहाँ पे हम क्या बोल सकते हैं? I'll say like, you know, here there is like neutral outlook I'll have, because now in order for our domestic consumption to go up, what needs to happen? Well, we need more jobs, okay? Because it's not as if that people keep on giving the argument that, hey, India's GDP per capita is like $2,500. It will suddenly go to like $5,000. ऐसा नहीं होता यार. Basically, you need jobs that can give you like 5,000 on an average to a person so that the GDP per capita will also increase. But to cut the long story short, here we have to look at the overarching picture. कि see, IT को आप neutral बोल सकते हो, right? Depending on how things shape up, but the entire AI, ML, अगर आप इसके बारे में पढ़ोगे, then you will be convinced that see, it's not like a very positive thing for IT industry per se. Okay, startup. This is positive. This is a definite plus. I really hope that our governments focus a lot and move the needle there. And third is domestic consumption. यहाँ पे we require like high quality jobs, and this again depends on a lot of things. All these things will be added together, right? And on top of that, you can add one more layer to it, layer to all these three things, which is called as infra development, right? So infra development. In fact, last 2-3 years have been really good for the Indian market per se. Now I'll tell you why. Because a lot of capex expenditure had undertaken. That government ने भर के पैसा खर्च करा है, right? And that has actually generated the hope that, okay, you know what, Indian market is like strong, etc., etc. So उसकी वजह से they were trying to like push the PE up in a way. But unfortunately, this narrative right now is not working, okay, for a bunch of different reasons. So I hope that you understood the concept of forward PE. This is point 2. Now let's move to point 3 and let me systematically point out to the data that how overvalued, undervalued we are if we look at the current situation. So back to current data, and so this is a good data point that you need to consider, and it shows the total market cap to GDP ratio. Okay, and यहाँ पे आप देखोगे तो see इस तरीके की बातें ना कि for example Indian market is overvalued, this that stuff, this happens very frequently. Okay, for example Indian market seemed to have overvalued here also, because the market cap to GDP was more than 100 there. Right now also it is more than 100 there. So is it overvalued? Yes, but is it like crazy overvalued? The short answer is no, it is not, right? So it is modestly overvalued. This is what we can sensibly say at this juncture. Now, am I trying to contradict Professor Damodaran? Absolutely not. I'm not trying to like, you know, sort of plug holes in his argument and all that stuff. I'm just giving you my impressions as an investor. I don't think that Indian market is crazy overvalued or something like that. Yes, it is. We are having a growth problem. Hopefully it will get solved like in a few years. अब आप डर के बैठ जाओ, right? You know what? Okay, I'll not put like any money in the market only. I'll wait for like, you know, another 5 years, 6 years. दिक्कत में आ जाओगे, right? So because why? Because then you need to get into the practicality of investing. If you stop investing, then the next point that you need to know is that see, in our economy like India right now, the inflation is very, very high. We are stating that our inflation is close to 5.5, 6%. It really is not, right? If you are someone who invests money in the stock market, you have limited set of investable options. Where will you invest? There are cities now in India जहाँ पे आपको 1 crore से कम का मकान ही नहीं मिलेगा. Okay, so real estate cannot be bought by most. FD आप करा दो, it's not massive like tax advantage. Debt is taxed high. There is no investable instrument, right? SGB band ho gaya, right? Even if you want to put money, you can't put it. Where will you put it? You will run SIPs, right? And SIPs ki wajah se there has been a bubble that has been created, which is the next key point, that this is your SIP data. Take a look at the fact that the growth on SIP has been crazy. As a result, there are certain pockets of Indian market where bubble has been formed and they are clearly overvalued. Now, this is a nuanced point that you need to understand as an investor. In fact, if you understand these nuances, only then you can protect your money. Now, if you're a serious learner, I would highly encourage you to join my investment community. The link is given in the description and comment box. It's an excellent community of investors. People learn things fundamentally. Every day you get a message from my side explaining you about the macroeconomic moves that are happening. It can help you build a better, more resilient portfolio, understand investing more holistically. You'll not be scared after reading these type of articles, all that stuff. Okay. But the next point that we will quickly discuss is the overvaluation pockets that have been formed. Okay. So for example, take a look at this data point, and this outlines the contribution or market cap of mid cap, large cap, and small cap funds, okay, to the overall market. Now, what you will notice is something very interesting. जैसे for example, चलते हैं December 13. Now, the total market concentration of large caps here in December of 2013 or December 13 was 77%. So यहाँ पे it was large cap heavy, okay? And back then the total contribution was 12.6 and 10 here, right? अब क्या सिचुएशन है कि यहाँ पे there has been a massive drawdown of contribution of large caps in the overall Nifty 50 Sensex. Now, what has happened in January of 2025 is that the concentration of large caps in the Indian market has gone down. It has gone down to 60%. And यहाँ पे bubble बनना शुरू हो गया है, right? And therefore, there has been a massive selling. And this is a point that I had explained on my community post also. And I was able to exit small cap, mid cap indices at the right time. मेरे को उसमें कुछ नुकसान नहीं है, and therefore my portfolio is also doing really well. People who had been holding on a lot of small cap, mid cap stocks, उनके बाजे बज गए, right? So that's the thing. And even now it seems overvalued, because what happens is that when we as normal retail investors put our money in the stock markets, we have a very short-term viewpoint. We don't look at the large big trends. So again, take a look at this data, right, which indicates current percentage to total market cap. So this indicates the premium or a discount of different categories. For example, right now, if you look at mid cap, it is roughly 13% overvalued. Small cap is still 35% overvalued, and large caps are discounted. So is Professor Damodaran right that Indian market is overvalued? Partially yes, because small and mid caps are overvalued. It's not as if that large cap indices are overvalued. Now, this is a point that I had been explaining for the last 6 months. जैसे private banks में बहुत positions हैं, FMCG में बहुत positions हैं, auto stocks वगैरह में बनाई हैं. So the point is that right now it kind of makes sense to be large cap focused. So then comes the next point, which is around FII discussion, that okay, FIIs are withdrawing money like crazy. So then definitely like Professor Damodaran is right that okay, you know what, कुछ गड़बड़ चल रही है इंडियन मार्केट में. See guys, I mean, I cannot comment on that, right? I mean, how do FIIs exactly think? But what I can leave you with is this, that FIIs worry about their post-tax returns in Indian markets. Now, many countries in the world, for example, Singapore, have zero taxation or zero capital gains tax. They, for example, if you consider UAE, it has zero capital gains tax. So what do large ticket investors or what do foreign investors worry about? They worry about their own capital and they calculate things on post-tax basis. So मैं आपको point इससे explain करके बताता हूँ कि let's go to Nifty 50 chart, right? Because FII started selling from the Indian market post 2020, right? So यहाँ से उन्होंने बिकवाली शुरू कर दी थी, okay? So now you'll take a look at it and you'll say यार अच्छा, you know what, in 5 years we have made like, or Nifty has made like 111% returns. So ये तो बहुत मिस कर दिया FII वालों ने, you know, बुद्धि भ्रष्ट थी FII वालों की वगैरह वगैरह. See guys, this is 111% returns, but there are two factors which are working against this. One is the INR depreciation, right, which has corrected by a lot. On an average, we are correcting by roughly 5%. So if you multiply it by 5, at least 25% depreciation to hui gaya INR ka. Okay, so this you subtract from 111. On top of that, what do you need to subtract? You need to subtract taxation, which is levied, because there are a lot of market-driven taxes also that NRIs pay when they are investing / trading in the Indian market, which they might not have to pay when they are investing in other countries. So net ye sab mila milu ke, right? The point becomes that okay, Indian markets have not been very lucrative, and unfortunately the taxation on market is only going up. It's not coming down. Now LTCG has been increased. We have like security transaction tax, वगैरह cheez, right? So to cut the long story short, this return is not very exciting for the level of risk that people are taking, especially foreign investors. So them leaving is a negative sign, no doubt about that. But does it mean that you can also leave? The short answer is not that easily. Why? Because you might not have options. Can you go and invest in UAE bonds, for example? Short answer is no. If you try to invest money in US stocks, again, moving money and all that is painful. So it's not that smooth for us, right? Then again, we have to pay like remittance, bringing the money back and all that, right? So it's a little bit of complexity. So then comes a very natural question that, okay, then what can we do, right? How can we improve our alpha? What is it that we can practically do in the Indian market that will help us make more returns? So there are 2-3 points. I have been speaking about this. See, number one, please avoid overvalued things. I have been tired of saying this over and over again. अब तो data भी आ गया है, अब तो देख लो, right? So that's a simple point, right? Here is a small cap, mid cap वाली चीजें हो गई, right? Again, this is not an investment advice. Do whatever you like. That's your money. आपने जलाना है जला दो, या whatever you want to do. I'll express my viewpoint, okay? So overvalued things, please avoid. Number two, please learn how to rotate capital, right? Now, what is the meaning of rotate capital? It's very, very simple. ये भी मैं कह के थक गया. See, this is a downtrend, right? This is a channel that is getting formed. आपको यहाँ पे खरीदना चाहिए on this point. The short answer is no. You should not buy it here right now. Okay. और आप बोलोगे कि अक्षत, you were saying, you know what, market will go up by 15%. Yes, that's a long-term view. But there is a short-term entry point also on things. Okay. When should you buy? When this touches this, in case you get an opportunity. Else, if there is a breakout, right? इस तरीके का कुछ breakout हो जाए and all that stuff, then possibly you can consider that. Learn how to trade all these channels. Learn how to rotate capital on these channels. This is not like day trading that I'm teaching you. I'm teaching you genuine things as to how big ticket investors put their own money. ये भी नहीं आता समझ में. At least learn how to rotate money in different sectors. For example, right now, finance sector, right? Especially private banks. नीचे हैं. अब कई नमूने शुरू हो जाएंगे, right? कि अच्छा, you were talking about like HDFC Bank 2 years also, that it is a good stock, this, that, सब. भाई डूब गए क्या आपके पैसे HDFC Bank में? नहीं ना. It's not as if कि ऐसा होता है कि, you know, I can predict the market or someone can predict the market. No one can predict the market. The point is that you identify undervalued things, you put your money, and then you pray to God that it comes back up. Okay, that's how it goes. And you आप result में कमी बताओ ना, right? कि for example, I spoke about good things about HDFC Bank, Kotak Bank, all that stuff. 2.5 years ago, नहीं बने उसमें पैसे. उसका ये मतलब थोड़ी है कि that was the only stock on my portfolio. I had a bunch of other stocks. For example, Zomato double हो गया, HDFC AMC double हो गया, Angel One double हो गया, दुनिया भर के stocks double हुए, right? But the point being कि लोग वो पकड़ के बैठ जाएंगे कि वो ये तो फाइनेंस तो कभी चलेगी नहीं. भाई चलेगा, ऐसा थोड़ी नहीं चलेगा, right? You have to be a little bit patient and understand things that are undervalued. So go there, understand sector rotation. For example, just like 3-4 months back, right? FMCG, right? Money is coming into this sector. Similarly, pharma में आया था उससे पहले, real estate sector में आया था उससे पहले. So you need to understand how to rotate money, rotate capital. This is going to be very important for you going forward. Just simply closing your eye and doing SIP is not going to cut it, right? There is a very good chance that if there is a structural problem in our economy, then SIP investing is going to heavily suffer, right? So इसमें problem आएगी. That does not mean that you will see a correction of 30-40% drawdown. Okay. So just to quickly summarize the video, number one, are we overvalued? Not really, right? We are slightly overvalued maybe, but large caps definitely are not. Number two, should you be scared of investing money in India? No. Why? Because you don't have a choice. Okay. We have to by default stay in India. आप उसको home bias बोल दो या जो भी बोलो, whatever external diversification you can do, right? If you can buy US stocks, buy US stocks. No problem there. Third, ऐसा तो नहीं कि इंडियन मार्केट आधा हो जाएगा, फॉरवर्ड पी खराब है, दिस दैट सब. सी structural issues are there in India right now. Okay, for example, high taxation, but that does not mean that there are nothing left, right? And India will not grow. No, nothing of that sort will happen, right? I mean, there are pockets of growth. For example, startup seems promising at this juncture. Number fourth, sector rotation, segment rotation is happening massively in India. That will continue to happen. Indian market is funded through SIPs. If people stop seeing returns over a 2-3 year basis on their SIPs, say this year, like last 12 months have been really bad. Massive withdrawal of SIPs have already happened. Okay, if this continues for 2 more years, people will not come back again to stock markets. Okay, so because people have no patience. So why kill the golden goose, right? That's a simple point. So something would be done to keep the markets up. जिसको index management बोलते हैं, वो होगा, right? And as long as you are buying at sensible points by understanding all these techniques, you will be fine. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.